Welcome back inside the Now Morning Show. Happy to have you guys here with us as we continue to celebrate this week. We're celebrating the 50th anniversary of CARICOM. And joining us via Zoom, I want to welcome the Secretary General of CARICOM, the 8th Secretary General, that is Dr. Carla Barnett. She joins us via Zoom. Good morning to you, Dr. Barnett.
Oh, good morning to you, sir. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you. And how are you?
I am fine. I am fine. We're looking forward to lots of celebration and all that goes along with that this week.
Most definitely. Now, before we get into the 50th anniversary celebrations, I want us to go back in time and get a little bit of the history and some of the challenges and some of the things that we've been celebrating over the past 50 years. Can we start with the Treaty of Chaguaramas? Can we get a breakdown as to what the treaty was and how it formed the CARICOM?
Well, the original Treaty of Chaguaramas created the Caribbean community. It succeeded CARIFTA. If you go back, there was a CARIFTA organization, which was really just a free trade area. And the heads in their wisdom at that time, four heads initially, agreed that there was a need within our region to raise the level of integration in order to allow countries to have a bigger space in which to develop. And so it grew from a free trade area to a community in which it was not only about moving goods and services, it was about people moving, it was about collaboration in areas of health, education. It was about coordinating foreign policy so that together as a region we would have a greater impact on the rest of the world. And so the CARICOM process differed significantly from the CARIFTA process. And so we've been building CARICOM now for 50 years.
Yeah. Dr. Barnett, good morning. This is Kimberly here. I just wanted to jump in quickly because I wanted to get just an overview in terms as it relates to the CSME. You mentioned that single market economy. And so as we look back from then to now, how has it been able to help people within the CARICOM states?
Yeah, well, what the single market realize, of course, that the single market isn't a thing. It isn't a place in time. It isn't a touchy-feely kind of thing. It is a way of living, a way of working. And so as we break down barriers over time between ourselves, as we ensure that we are able to move goods and people more freely across the region, our single market is coming into being. Sometimes we feel as if we have not made any progress, but the reality is that there are very few on the good side in terms of items that we trade physically. There are really very few items among ourselves that we have issues with. We've managed to remove all of the restrictions among ourselves. And we also have a common platform on which we trade with the rest of the world. So when anybody wants to import into CARICOM, there's a standard tariff, there's a way of ensuring that if there are suppliers in the region, they have preference. So that's the way the trade of goods part of the single market functions. But it's a work in progress, and that's what it will be, because as we grow and we expand our relations, it means that more movement of goods and persons will take place.
Yeah. And Dr. Barnett, it seems to play in line with one of the four pillars of CARICOM, of course, being that human and social development. Can you share with us the other pillars of CARICOM and if we've been able to really stick to that based on what we would have established back then and 50 years now?
Well, when CARICOM, when the original treaty was signed, we were talking about building a community on three pillars. So it was the common market as it was then, common market and community. It was external trade, and it was human and social development. And human and social development includes all of those areas in which we collaborate in terms of developing the human person, from education, health, through to crime and security and all of those things. And then when we evolved over the years, we realized that security needed to be a pillar on its own. And so we developed a fourth pillar to treat with issues of security. And so now we have those four pillars that comprise the integration process in CARICOM.
Now, Dr. Barnett, you mentioned the single market economy, you mentioned the security corporation. What are some of the things that we should be proud of in the last 50 years that CARICOM has been able to accomplish? I know we have the Caribbean Court of Justice, we have the Caribbean Development Bank, but what else should we be proud of as Caribbean nationals?
The two agencies that I like to, at this psychological point in time, that I like to highlight, one is CARFA. You would be aware that CARFA led this region through the COVID pandemic, ensured that we were on the cutting edge of information, that we could access as much vaccines. As difficult as that was, CARFA was part of the process of treating with that. And so CARFA is one of the agencies that I like to point out as one that we really need to be proud of. And the other is SEDIMA. SEDIMA is the agency in the region that works at the regional level to coordinate response after a natural disaster. And it works with a range of national disaster agencies across the region. SEDIMA includes, of course, not only CARICOM countries, member countries, but other countries in the CARICOM region as well, because that collaboration is important in times of emergencies. And SEDIMA does very well in ensuring that countries are organizing their disaster responses as best as possible and that resources are available to the extent that they can. It's a very difficult thing sometimes because as a region, we need to mobilize resources for many things. And so we have to ensure that we mobilize our resources to ensure that SEDIMA can do its work and be in a position to respond. And so far, SEDIMA is one of the agencies that has really helped the community and member states individually in the event of a disaster. So those are the two that I like to highlight at this time.
Dr. Barnett, now I understand there is a community agricultural policy, and so I'm wondering how is that going to fit in with, of course, the region's thrust to decrease that import bill by 25% by 2025. How is CARICOM working and to help to achieve that particular objective?
This is one of the areas that is first line priority for us. One of the things that we discovered during the COVID pandemic is that because we import a lot of the food we consume, when the shipping services are onshore, are uncertain for any reason, then we have uncertainty regarding our food supply. There are countries in this region that have the capacity to produce large amounts of food. And even our smaller territories are able to increase their food production, especially if they utilize new approaches to agriculture, protected agriculture, and encouraging wider cultivation. And so the 20 by 2025 plan commenced preparation before COVID. So we started to talk about that before COVID. COVID intervened, and as a result of all of the discontinuities there was some slowdown in the implementation of that. Since COVID, there has been really active work. We have all of our countries already beginning to produce more food. And whenever we meet as a conference of heads, the president of Guyana, who leads the charge on agriculture and food and nutrition security, presents the update. It's a really well organized process where the ministers of agriculture and the technical persons in the agriculture ministries across the region, with the help of international agencies such as FAO, such as ICA, bring the technology to bear. And we're involving the private sector as well, because at the end of the day, it will be private concerns that continue to grow and produce food. One of the major constraints, of course, in CARICOM is transportation. And so to ensure that food produced in one part of the region can reach other parts of the region, we're also at the same time working to see how we can improve the capability to transport food and people across the region. So that's a major challenge that we have to address in an efficient, effective way, because it's been a long time constraint to movement of goods and people across the region.
Dr. Barnett, I was actually going to ask you about that challenge. What do you think causes us to have such challenges when it comes to transport and transporting goods and people, and why is it so expensive across the region?
The technical, as it's been explained to me, and I'm not an aviation expert, but the way it's been explained to me is that because movement across the region is comprised of a lot of short stops.
Right.
So when you're moving down the chain of islands in the East Caribbean, for example, you have a lot of stops along the way. And when it's a short flight with stops at the end, it is much more expensive per mile than if it's a long flight, because the expense is concentrated at the takeoff and landing. So that's for that's the best way I can explain the little bit that I understand about why it is so. So it is an expensive proposition relative to long distances to provide transportation throughout the region. The matter is on the discussion at this time. There are consultants working to see if there are efficient ways we can use alternative means of transport, ferries, whether we can bring in different kinds of aircraft. So there are different options that are on the way, and I can only tell you that it is receiving the highest attention at this time, because it is a matter that everybody recognizes is a hindrance to both people and goods moving within this region.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Dr. Barnett, from 1973 to now, it's 50 years. I believe we would have started off with about 3 or 4 nations, and now we have so many that we have, within that Caribbean community. This is a two-parter. Do you know of any other regions who are interested in joining, and why should somebody decide to join the CARICOM?
We have, within this region, as you know, when we started, it was 4 English-speaking countries, and then we expanded to 12 English-speaking countries. We brought in Montserrat, that is a full member, but is also a dependent territory. So we have those as English-speaking, but we've expanded to include Suriname, which is Dutch-speaking, and Haiti, which is French-speaking. So we are now multilingual. We work across this region in all the territories. Why do people want to join CARICOM? Because there is strength in numbers, because we have a louder voice when we speak together, because when we bring more contiguous countries together to solve problems regionally, we create critical mass that will help us to solve the problems that we face. So that is the logic behind integration. The CARICOM family, as I like to say, is no different from any other family. Everybody has their individual concerns, and then we have the concerns that we share together. And those concerns we work on as best we can together. And it is that spirit of togetherness, that ability to work together, that attracts countries to want to be a part of CARICOM.
Definitely. Dr. Barnett, from what I'm hearing you saying there, I think the message, the takeaway message as we get ready to head into another 50 years is togetherness. We can do it together, and people will support us. I want to thank you. I want to thank you so much for joining us. And of course, all the best this week and all the celebrations that will be happening. We look forward to joining you and celebrating 50 years of CARICOM.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And we're really very appreciative of the hospitality that we are being granted by the government and people of Trinidad. The arrangements are absolutely wonderful. Our races, we had the 10K race yesterday and the 5K the day before. Those were really well done, high levels of participation. So we're starting good.
Did you participate? No?
Yes, I did. I gave out prizes.
Nice. Thank you so much, Dr. Barnett. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Have a good one.
All right, take care.
All right, thank you too. Thank you very much.
All right, that's Dr. Carla Barnett.